Good morning. Hello. It's Sunday, the 21st of September. Okay, so this is the outlook for the week ahead. All right, obviously it's Sunday, but this is how we do things. So, recap. We'll recap from, let's just talk about the last month or so. So, obviously this failure was the first bearish change since these lows. We were bearish. Arguably the first bullish change happened after this consolidation. So we bracketed here for 3 or 4 days, broke out, retested. So that was the first sort of indication that maybe we were seeing a shift. And that shift was confirmed on this breakout here. We traded up to this point of control and rejected on Thursday in fact. Was it really Thursday? Okay. All right, well, it was Thursday. And we've since traded back into this previous 5 days of balance, losing the developing week's value high and the developing month's value high, and given that return pull back into the 5-day composite high and the 5-week composite low. So it's effectively a return into this 5 days of balance and a breakdown from this 5 weeks, as well as a return into the developing month. So anticipating continued downside given the bearish shift. And I think there are basically two scenarios here. One is that we make a higher low. I like this area. So 111 to 112 has very strong overlapping VWAP confluence, developing month's value low, yearly value high, previous month's value low, and quarterly value low as well as this point of control of this previous consolidation. So I think this is my favorite preferred candidate for a potential higher low should we bottom in that fashion. So there is a strong case for that, I think, given the strength of these overlapping VWAPs. And what I mean by that is the confluence that we're seeing at that level. At the very least, I'd expect some kind of reaction here, even if it's just to come and give that a bearish retest. So the higher low scenario is that we bottom here and rally. The other scenario is that we continue bearish structure. So we've obviously made a high, a lower low, which broke this low, and now a lower high. So are we going to continue this bearish structure and potentially come into 98k or 100k or wherever, but a lower low somewhere lower down? And I think there's a strong case for that as well, because this is just crap, right? These lows are not very convincing. And this whole rally has been very corrective. So if we're going to see another impulsive leg, you'd probably anticipate that to take out all of this and take us lower. So I think there are arguments for both, and we just have to wait and see how things look when we come into that area. Have a quick look at VWAPs, just to reinforce these points really, because I think the story is much the same. We'll look at ETH later. So the key change, obviously, we were holding the developing month's value all throughout last week, and then the bearish scenarios sort of posted here played out, right? So we got into the developing month's value, we've returned to the developing month's value high, and I'm looking for that move through the developing month's value towards monthly val, which takes us into these overlapping levels, yearly value high, quarterly value low, so on and so forth. But the key change here was on the monthly, where we got back within and retested. So it's very clean in terms of VWAP. You had good confluence with the composite structure as well. The other thing I would just point to here is the state of the books. So, it's pretty ugly. The book skews are as bad as they've been, if not worse than they were at the top. So pretty deeply negative skews, not much depth on the bid. There's definitely a decent case for this just trading significantly lower, I think. It doesn't look great at the moment. Obviously, it's a weekend, this can change quickly. But as of now, there's nothing here which is particularly encouraging for bulls, I would suggest. So any depth that was there at the back end of last week is certainly not there at the moment. Okay, so that's it really in terms of BTC. There was a good opportunity to get short here yesterday if you weren't already, but I think there are loads of other opportunities as well in other coins. But yeah, 111 is the first place I would potentially look. And then I think, assuming we do get a reaction here, let me mark out this point of control as well. Why not? So we got effectively a 2 week, maybe it's longer, but we'll just call it 2 week POC. So assuming we trade into this area, looking for a reaction here, but this could then obviously constitute acceptance within this bracket, in which case a return into the composite highs and potentially a rejection from the 30-day VWAP. Should it come to that, would at least mean short-term trade into that composite low. On the other hand, if we can get above, get a good reaction here and start trading up, then bottom's probably in. But we'll see. I don't know. I feel like there's a very good chance all of this gets taken out, as I say. I'm just going to repeat myself if I carry on now, so hopefully that's all clear. All right, let's look at ETH next. So ETH, effectively, we're still in this third week, right? So we're still printing 3 weeks of balance here. 2 weeks ago, we had an attempt to break out. It failed. Last week, mostly chop, and we got that return into the composite highs here. So that was the return pullback on the 3 week comp. I took the short here on Friday when we got back within this 3-day composite. So we got within here, and we traded up, gave that return pullback into the composite high, and we're now consolidating at composite lows and trading below the 30-day rolling VWAP. So that to me is a potential change. Clearly the VWAP has flattened, so it is pointing to more of a range-bound environment, but we've traded below this twice now, and I think this is the first time we've traded, since July. So, clearly a change. I'm anticipating a move through previous month's value. So if I look at ETH from a VWAP perspective, and conveniently I've got the monthly here. Okay, so this was the failure above the composite. This was the retest. Effectively what we've done in terms of trading around the previous month's value is failed to break out, retested at the high. And so I'm looking for rotation throughout this previous month's value to around 39.50, which lines up with quarterly VWAP and potentially the 90-day rolling here. So potentially going to have pretty nice confluence as we come into that area, assuming this does break down, and potentially be looking for a bottom to be put in here. Now, it may well trade lower. It may well not even get there, right? If we get some kind of failed break below the comp here and a reclaim, that would be a reason to potentially be looking for longs. But for now, given the way this is traded around previous month's value high, as we initially got that reaction here, I think looking for rotation through previous month's value makes a lot of sense. So again, it's just been rotational neutral, but clearly shifting short-term bearish at the very least. So potentially we've got some support here. May well line up with what we're seeing on BTC in terms of moves to sort of 111. This high volume node may provide some support. And then, we'll see if we put in some kind of quick lower high, something like that, and then roll over. We'll have to see. But that would be my plan for now, would be to target this area. I wouldn't really want to see it below yearly value high, but it could happen. This area makes a lot of sense, right? Because we've got this structure formed here. So effectively demand formed on this leg down. Retesting that demand is absolutely fine. So any kind of wick into this area would be good. But for now, looking for that corrective leg a bit lower. Okay, so that's ETH. I don't think much has changed in that since Friday either. Sol, pretty ugly, isn't it? So, huge rejection off that fib level. That's all I could really see there, and to be honest. But swept the high into the fib. Broke down below this 3-week composite high. So this was effectively a failed breakout, as was this. But more convincing top here, given the excess on this candle. Lots of responsive selling. Traded back into the 3-week composite, and this older 2-day, found some support here. for the time being around this other 3-day composite high, and we've just put in a bit of a bear flag really into over the weekend, trading up into monthly value high. So there's quite good VWAP confluence in this area. We've got monthly value high, previous week value high, weekly VWAP, unable to hold above those levels and just trading into this area of low time frame supply. So yeah, I'm short from up here on Friday. Same with ETH. Added a bit yesterday around 240. So where am I looking for Sol? I mean, we've got, pretty good confidence around this area, around the sort of 214 to 220 area. So we've got this previous 14-day bracket where we've got, clearly a level of SR formed. Yearly value high, previous week val, quarterly value high, 30-day rolling VWAP coming into that area as well. So, 217 is probably the first, this kind of area is probably the first place I would look. Could trade lower into this region. So I'm essentially looking for, either this area here or potentially this area here. So we've got overlapping VWAPs, the 30-day rolling here, overlapping long-term VWAPs and the 90-day rolling here. And I guess, which it ends up being is going to depend on where BTC goes, whether we get a pretty deep nuke, which, I think would be the preferable scenario. It's much easier and preferable to long from lower prices, right? I'd rather long from lower than higher. So also I'd rather take profit on my shorts lower. So I'm kind of biased, but yeah, we'll see. I'm open to either of these scenarios. Wouldn't want to see it spend too much time below 195, given that that's where we've got the previous year value high. Obviously got the developing years up here. But yeah, could be either of those scenarios. I would suggest maybe we even trade as low as that, but we'll see. So no reason to be bearish, to be bullish at the moment, right? I mean, it's quite clear. We had bullish condition. Let's just go over it. If we take it from here, so you got held above the 90-day, shifted inside this comp, failed to break down. Held the 30-day, failed breakdown here, broke out here, re-accepted into value here. This was the first sign that things were changing. We had a failed breakout and then double top essentially with the sweep. So things are now bearish and we just need to wait for something to change. Don't be changing your bias every 5 seconds. The market will continue to do what it's doing until something changes. All right, so that's kind of the majors. Alts generally are going to follow, right? So yes, we've had some important high time frame breakouts, but if Bitcoin and the other majors are going to nuke, then at the very least we're probably going to see some retests lower. So for example, Wormhole broke July, August, September, 3 months of balance, and really has been consolidating for longer here, back since March. But more or less came into the 365-day rolling and clearly has found some sellers up here. So, probably going to retrace, retest yearly VWAP perhaps. Nice and balanced here, some demand. So, could get, it's difficult to say where this might bottom, at least on a low time frame basis, but somewhere in this area probably would make a lot of sense. So potentially looking to rebid this area on a dip. This probably applies to a few things. Eigen, for example, as well. Traded up to the developing years value high. Found some responsive sellers. So, similar kind of looking chart. Lots of consolidation, breakout, thin move. Probably going to retest somewhere in this imbalance. Lots of overlapping VWAP levels lower down. So, who's to say where it will bottom, but it could be anywhere. Anywhere from sort of 150 to 165 is probably a decent region to be looking to bid on. Eigen, don't really want to see it, except, don't want to see this low broken. That would be bad. Yeah, and so on and so forth, right? I mean, I don't want to go over a load of alts right now, but so, in summary, short-term bearish, high time frame bullish, medium time frame bearish, let's say, high time frame bullish. Whether we make a higher low in this area or end up going lower is the only question I have now. I don't think I would look to bid anywhere up here personally. I just don't think it makes sense. I think this POC is the likely destination. I mean, there is a possible scenario. Let's just go over the other possible scenario, which I don't really favour at all. There is a possible scenario where we just front run everyone and wick into that imbalance and then find support, say the 30-day VWAP. I don't think it's very likely, but it's one to watch, right? So if we just come and do that, yeah, it's possible, but gut feel we probably sell off into early October, maybe see a dip in early October, and then put in the bottom around then. But last year we bottomed in September, didn't really start building momentum until October. It's always slightly different. So yeah, that's it, guys. We'll see what happens. Hopefully there's something useful in there, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.